And welcome in to another episode of the Make It a Mark Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast. And sadly, this will be our first YouTube episode. I hope some of you see us right now. I hope you're on YouTube watching because we got it started. We promised it at the beginning of the year. And all it took was a pandemic to force me to figure out the technology side of it and make it happen. This is not what I wanted it to look like. I was hoping we'd all be in the same room. There'd be some really close-up shots that are high quality. Instead, we're doing this remotely, and the only benefit is Ethan has cool wrestling figures in the background, and Wade has a TP throne. Wade, right now, how many people do you currently have in your fiefdom?
I mean, too many to count, really. Like it's I am thriving during this time. I don't know about everyone else, but this is pretty great. How about you? How are you guys doing during?
I'm kind of losing my fucking mind, but it's okay. It could be worse. Yeah. I don't have a toilet paper kingdom like you do. With surfs, drawbridges and shit.
Sometimes winners win.
So did you have the TP before this happened, or were you one of the people that ruined my life?
The answer is yes.
No, I had it before. I had it beforehand. My brother actually saw a sale at Hy-Vee, and he's like, whoa, look at all this toilet paper for really cheap. And then about a week later, all this shit happened, and we're like, oh, wow, kind of lucked out.
Good timing.
As I do mostly in life.
So right now we're getting together to talk about wrestling, and obviously we're in a very strange time as WrestleMania 36 looks like it's still going to happen in some form or fashion. Vince won't back down. I'd attack him for being a crazy old man who doesn't believe in science or viruses, except AEW is also putting on a weekly show as well. There are indie promotions that are promoting these social distancing matches and crazy shit. So only the wrestling world has decided it's not important to shut down. Apparently, wrestling takes its cues from Donald Trump, or Donald Trump takes its cues from wrestling. I haven't figured out the order yet, but that's where we're at. I'm going to start with Ethan. How do you feel about the fact that WrestleMania is possibly going to happen if the city of where's Performance Center at?
It's Orlando, right?
Yeah, so I think Orlando is like in the process of maybe shutting it down. So first Tampa says, no way, we can't do this. Vince has to stop and decide, okay, we can't have it there and we're not going to have an audience. So let's take it to the Performance Center. Maybe the Performance Center gets shut down, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's probably going to happen, and minus losing a handful of participants. So I just want to know, Ethan, if you think they should go through with WrestleMania, or is this a bad idea?
I mean, should, probably not. They definitely will, and I'm not going to protest it. It's going to be a weird form of WrestleMania to begin with, so it's not really even WrestleMania at this point, it feels like. So it's just kind of more of the same of these weird empty arena shows. I know that I don't know how many performers have backed out or said they're unable to perform. I know Roman Reigns is the obvious one due to being immunocompromised. But yeah, I don't know. It's if they're able to keep doing open arena or empty arena shows, then might as well call one of them WrestleMania and put some titles on the line, I guess.
Makes sense. So I want to go with Wade. You won't get to watch the big dog win the Universal Championship. How depressed are you right now with that news?
Oh, wow. I could just not give one shit less, really, Mac. I'm kind of at the, on the cuff of wait. Why aren't we waiting? Why can't we call this something else? It's not WrestleMania. WrestleMania isn't into an empty arena. It's impossible to have WrestleMania in an empty arena. It's look, and all those people that bought WrestleMania tickets, are they getting full refunds, or is it I know I bought concert tickets recently and they've just been postponed until September. So why not just postpone WrestleMania for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months? But my question was, where the hell's AEW filming?
Jacksonville, right?
I think so.
In like the Panther Stadium, or like
no,
I didn't realize they just had they rented a warehouse.
Yeah, I don't know where the building is, but yeah,
I saw it last week. There is a brand. It's something Ford Stadium or something. I don't know, but okay. It's in a stadium, like some small arena.
Yeah, and they're definitely doing a better job of coordinating everything off. And, where WWE, obviously in the Performance Center, it's smaller than, just trying to do it in a big arena, but it's also still kind of built with the same dimensions as maybe a smaller arena. And then AEW seems like they've definitely, it's a very short entrance ramp. It's just kind of like this small little area where they've had a few wrestlers off to the side cheering things on, which is fairly helpful. They don't seem to be following the 6-foot rule, but you have those out there so that there's actually some level of audience. There's some, I think it was Sean Spears out there cheering on. Maybe it was the Brodie Lee segment. And yeah, I think, if we jump into past the idea of WrestleMania and just the idea of, okay, you have empty arena shows, how do you pull that off? It feels like WWE has just been like, let's run it back the only way we know how. Let's have Sasha and Bayley cut promos on an audience that isn't there. And you have AEW that not only are they letting, craziness happen with, broken Matt Hardy showing up and, cutting his weird promo and trying to, make that work. They're actually putting on a show that is aware that there's no crowd there. And it doesn't seem like WWE has made any change other than they're at the Performance Center and it's, business as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, AEW definitely has handled the empty arena format a lot better. It seems like less of a hurdle, and they, like you said, like having other wrestlers out there like heckling or cheering on, like just kind of handfuls at a time, makes it fun. And they also just don't have like awkward promos that are cut to an empty arena, rather than like a few people have been able to nail it. I mean, like Austin figured it out, but that's Austin. He's best to ever do it. Edge's promo was good. He was more just kind of talking to himself in cameras versus like you said, Sasha Banks and Bayley, who are looking around the arena, like hitting their normal points they would normally hit just to empty chairs.
So I love how Jericho is saying that there's he's not allowing people in the arena. Like that's like good, like classic heel shit.
That's
perfect.
That's
classic.
So I was going to ask you, Wade, how did you feel about that? Obviously, you enjoyed that little bit with Chris Jericho, but I wanted to know how you felt about the Brodie Lee being the exalted one, joining the Dark Order, and then even more importantly, the broken Matt Hardy thing, because you have been up and down on how you felt about the broken Matt Hardy character coming to WWE, and you like tried to give it a chance, and then you were very negative on it once they started to actually do whatever they ended up calling it when they put it on the network. And I just want to know how you felt about the way they handled that. They had one of the deletion things, but I mean specifically like I don't know whether it was like a Halloween segment. I know you really just panned, but
yeah.
Oh, House Hardy Halloween? You mean the greatest non-ring segment they've released in over 20 years? Fuck out of here, Wade.
Sure.
Yep. So, Wade, how'd you feel about broken Matt Hardy showing up in AEW?
So far, like I'm kind of like Vince McMahon. I don't get the broken universe. Like, it's had its moments of comedy where I've definitely like laughed at stuff, but I've never been like, whoa, can't wait to see another one of those. I think if it can work anywhere, though, it would be AEW. They have the money that TNA didn't, and they're going to have the commitment that WWE didn't. So I think if it can work anywhere, AEW is the place. I'm still not going to like it, But I think this will be the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and my first thought on it was that similar to yours, that they have the ability to put some money into it and make it where I don't know what it'll look like, but seeing what they did with Brodie Lee as the leader of the Dark Order, like, they are putting together some really polished videos that they're using as the vignettes for these groups. Definitely they could do something with Matt Hardy, with the Broken Universe, and like you said, actually be committed to it. It seems like there are a great range of characters in AEW, where I was kind of worried when it got started that wouldn't happen, that you had that indie type, the different people that were in New Japan that could try to put on a 5-star classic. They were putting on a bunch of false finishes to build up the end of a match, and they had guys who can go, but do they really have personalities? Are they really able to put on a show that if you have the average American wrestling fan, not just the hardcore smart, are they going to turn in each week? Are there enough things there? And I wasn't sure they had at the beginning, but now at this point, when you think of like the types of characters, they really are doing a version of what the Attitude Era was with modern sensibilities. They are meeting those types of characters. You look at something like
when talking about these vignettes, like the ones that stand out to me the most are the like Jake the Snake and Lance Archer bits that we're seeing every week that kind of do feel like they're in their own world. Like it reminds me a little bit of not full on but like Lucha Underground's vignette style, where it was very soap opera. It was very it wasn't shot as like a backstage sports segment. It was shot as like a fiction. And I think that is something that AEW is knocking out of the park. And now they have the ability to do it with Lance Archer. They have the ability to do it with the Dark Order. And if they keep on pace with that, with whatever ends up happening with the Matt Hardy Broken Universe, I think that it's probably going to work. And like you said, they kind of have both advantages that WWE and TNA didn't have going into this really unique world and unique character.
Yeah, I mean, right now, when you take like the full picture, because it's not just like individual, it's not like will the Broken Matt Hardy character work, will Brodie Lee work, it's that they have so many options and they're letting them succeed or fail on their own merit, and it's really hard to figure out week to week how successful AEW stars are, because the audience is so cult-like in supporting them and cheering for them. And even somebody like Jericho is trying to be this top heel. They're singing along to a song at the beginning. They're not following the classic way that fans consume wrestling. So when you're watching and you're trying to figure out, okay, are these things really working? You have those weird characters where even like the librarians get a pop, but that's sure as hell not working necessarily. But you are getting the different types of characters there that different people can latch onto, different people can enjoy. And I think that's probably the best part. And I don't know if you guys had the time to listen to the Brodie Lee, Luke Harper going on Talk is Jericho a couple days ago, but that's kind of
started it last night.
Yeah, that's kind of the big thing that he was hitting on a lot, was just having the ability to succeed or fail on your own merits. And now without the fans there, I think I would have thought it would have been harder to figure out if somebody was working and it was going well. But now I think it's even easier with AEW, because instead the gimmick has to be really good to shine through. You're not going to get something like the librarians getting a cheap pop for no goddamn reason. It has to work, because everybody's sitting there watching very awkward television all week. Wrestling is in a very weird spot to try to keep going. And so if it's going to be good, it has to be pretty good. And who knows where the Broken Matt Hardy thing ends. But I did feel like that was a really good promo from both himself and Chris Jericho. Like, a lot of it, you're right, Wade. Like, if that's supposed to sell me on a match this Sunday at a pay-per-view, I'm not sure it can do that. But as weekly television, Chris Jericho cutting a promo on Vanguard, hilarious. Matt Hardy, even the weird, if you're going to have a world in wrestling where the Undertaker can come out and make everything go dark and he appears out of nowhere, you have all these weird, supernatural, weird characters, then it's great when you can find a way to make that work empty arena. You have Matt Hardy doing the teleporting down into different spots. You take advantage of the fact you don't have the audience there. I think it worked really well. I mean, if somebody told me it looked cheap and cheesy, yeah, it's supposed to look cheap and cheesy. The way they cut the promo, having Chris Jericho kind of being that voice of reason, sounding like Wade in responding to the Matt Hardy, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what is this stupid character? Saying it to his face, just made for a great dynamic. And I think that's what can make it work. It's that Vince let it happen once and said, okay, let me see what it looks like. Except he didn't actually put him in with any competitors that could make it work. He didn't let it play out that way. And when you put it, broken Matt Hardy in the ring with Chris Jericho will do everything in his power to make it work. And I think the segment worked really good, all things considered. I still am in the same camp as Wade. I don't know how I'm ever going to get excited for a Matt Hardy match, not just because of the gimmick. Matt Hardy, he is broken, not just mentally. His body doesn't work. How am I supposed to get excited for him to face anybody in a real match?
Yeah, his knees are backwards, and that's definitely a concern. But just gotta wait and see. It's all about the character work now, and I mean sometimes that's all that really matters, and it sells you enough, and then 6 months later you don't remember the negatives of someone moved a little slower in a match. You remember the program as a whole and what it's built on, which is going to be vignettes and more out of ring segments.
So, Ethan, I did want to see what your opinion was on Brodie Lee. Obviously, the conversation I keep seeing on Twitter is that the cheap shots kind of, people either loved it the way they love anytime people make fun of Vince. Some people were like, why does AEW have to keep attacking? Why can't they just do their own thing? In terms of watching it, I tried to do a little test run. I had Kinsey watch it with me without telling her the things because she's not as big of a smart as us. She doesn't necessarily know that Vince gets mad at people who try to eat before he finishes his steak. So I want to know what your thoughts were on that. Was that something that was too inside baseball and too petty, or did you think that worked the way that they've built up Brodie Lee and have already taken 3 or 4 pot shots at Vince McMahon?
Yeah, I do agree with the idea that it doesn't have to always be like digging at the history with WWE, but with a guy like Brodie Lee who's been so frustrated, I feel like he gets like, I don't know, maybe like a window of time where there's just going to be, it was the same thing with Moxley. That's kind of Moxley's whole mission right now as a character is bringing back wrestling and getting back to wrestling. So, and a lot of that does tie back to his fuck you to WWE, and that I think kind of makes sense for Brodie Lee as well, because he's another guy who's gone through similar frustrations. I think that maybe they could spread him out a little bit more, so the whole thing isn't just like a dig at like the Vince tendencies, like waiting for you to finish your steak and like getting mad if you sneeze, like all these things. Which it's funny. I think it does work though either way, because it works for the Smarky Smart fans who are just like you said, the kind of the blind AEW fans who whatever AEW puts out they're gonna like. They're entertained, and then also it's like a good enough character trait for the people who aren't as familiar to where you at least understand like, oh, this guy's kind of a bastard and has a superiority complex and all of that. So I think it works either way. It is kind of something that when you do know all of the background of it, it does get a little tiresome maybe, but we'll kind of see how it goes. I'd say that, or just go all in with it. Do like every single Vince trope you've ever heard of in like one background segment. I'd be here for that.
You have to get Brodie Lee a jet. You said that there's exactly. A window for it. When does Cody Rhodes' window open and close? Like, how much time does he have left on that window? Because he's been taking pot shots for a while.
I think he threw Triple H's sledgehammer through that window, so it's permanently open. Okay. I guess on an individual basis, like Moxley kind of less and less has references to the other company. Like it's sort of vague, and it's still there. But I expect you'll see the same thing with Brodie Lee because that's not necessarily their character isn't the one that's, going up head to head against WWE and putting their neck on the line, so to speak. Whereas Cody, I think you're expected to see it pretty much consistently from here on in.
That was a pretty good answer, you fucking neckbeard. So I guess I'll turn this to Wade and figure out how you feel about it. I do want to kind of point the question just a little bit, though. So, the way Ethan was talking about it, where it does work both ways, I would say I agree with that. I want to see if you do. Like, the idea that he is doing the sneeze and he's doing all these little Vinceisms in one, segment. But at the same time, to me, it looked like it's part of the character, or it can be. I guess the only way I know whether it's petty or not is going forward. Is this actually going to be a part of it, or is it a one-off? We did this vignette, and that's not how we're going to see Brodie Lee in the future. Because he starts out and he comes in the ring and he sets up with, he's got the robes, and I thought that promo package was pretty darn good. I thought all things considered, it came together well. They used the lack of audience really well to just have Brodie Lee appear behind Christopher Daniels. I thought that attack of Vince was perfect. The idea you're not the first out of touch old man, like that is perfect because it worked two ways. It wasn't just saying not to believe in me. Like in this case, Christopher Daniels didn't believe he existed. Vince doesn't believe in him as a wrestler. Like you get that double entendre. It's smart. It's great. It was a little bit more on the nose the next week, but if that's actually the character and you got a guy who comes out and he's a normal cult leader that is telling you this is how you better your life, this is how you do it, and then behind the scenes he's the more corporate, like he steals Vinceisms to create this awesome heel like part of the personality, then I'll love it. But I got the fear that it was just a one-off joke and we're not going to see whatever that version of the character was be part of Brodie Lee's character going forward.
I for one agree with both you and Ethan on everything you both said. This is so weird. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good show, guys. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and pack it in.
Can't leave it. I still have mini Pop-Tarts.
I'm just happy that Luke Harper, now Brodie Lee, is back on TV again. Like I'm excited for that. Like I love the swerve of. I think everyone thought the Exalted One was going to be.
Archer?
Matt Hardy.
Oh,
I thought it was going to be Matt Hardy,
yeah.
And then I thought Jake the Snake was going to be debuting Luke Harper, and I was just like, "This is great! I love everything about this." And then when it was Harper, like he was kind of like almost very Bludgeon Brothery get up. So I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that. But all the promos have been. I mean, great. Like, I think he should keep doing Vince stuff until he's tired of doing it. If anyone has the right to shit on Vince McMahon in the WWE right now, it's Luke Harper. Like, Cody Rhodes had a tough time. Moxley had a tough time. But no one, like, if you listen to that podcast with Jericho, no one had a worse time in WWE than Luke Harper. Like, constantly just being forgotten about and put on a shelf. And then when he was given a spot, out with injuries. And
sometimes
just the unfair treatment of someone who, and that's not even has nothing to do with him. So I feel Luke Harper is the best and most underrated big man wrestling today. And I love just the fact that now everyone is going to actually see what his personality is and what he can do on a microphone and who Brodie Lee is. Because after all those years in WWE, who the fuck was Luke Harper? Like, a guy that at the end shot an arrow and, And that's all he did. And shit, like, I love him from that. So now that he's actually going to be given a chance to shine, I can't wait to see what he does. And especially him being there with Moxley. I hope there's something that happens between the two of them at some point.
Yeah, I think it has to. And what you said about you said Bludgeon Brother kind of get up, and all I can think of is like Brodie Lee looks like one of the Bludgeon Brothers if he lived on that planet in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from the future. Like that's also a good character. It's its whole thing. But I think I like that was probably my favorite thing that I did like about the like steak dinner segment is that you might actually see that kind of corporate like character of Brodie Lee rather than whatever else the Dark Order's been doing for, as the Dark Order. I don't imagine Brodie Lee is just some weird nerd slinking around in a mask. I think that he's bigger than that. And also it does kind of add up with the Vinceisms, and maybe that is just part of his character, is that he's kind of a quasi AEW version of a Vince McMahon type megalomaniac.
Yeah,
this does give a perfect chance though for him to do it was me all along. I hope that happens.
He probably should have already
dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah. So I think the big thing for me, it's not even just that he becomes a Vince McMahon type, but it's using those that caricature of Vince. If you imagine that as a cult leader, it's that makes perfect sense. That's kind of the attributes you would need to create this extremely that could be in a TV show that is, really works, the type of theater you can create. And that's the type of theater you need right now when there's nobody in the audience. And the probably the best part about the Dark Order has been the vignettes. They have some pretty good wrestlers, but the characters, who they are, has kind of sucked. Every time they come out afterwards, it's not good. I've liked the vignette itself. It almost seems disconnected because you're watching this kind of what is it, a personal improve yourself guru, whatever the hell it's called, those type of videos, and then you have guys coming out in gimp outfits, and you're that doesn't make any sense. I like what they were doing with that, and if Brodie Lee can come in and create that type of cult leader that actually makes it fit, then all of a sudden what was really good work they were doing on creating those video packages can be put to good use. I just don't know how you stop Evil Uno or whatever the fuck it is, stop him from coming out looking like an idiot, stop all these gimps from coming out. If you can find a way to transition away from that, but you keep, those guys can wrestle, so if you find a way to incorporate that, I think it works on so many levels. It works from the fact that Brodie Lee as the cult leader, after he spent all this time being forced into a cult where he had to be the henchman, that's perfect. That's that turnabout. And who knows how long it lasts. He doesn't have to be that forever in AEW. But right now, it is a genius move. Wade, you're right about the double turn. We're thinking it was going to be, Matt Hardy coming in. They did everything right. Great promos to start with. And I think the Vince stuff, as long as it's actually part of the character, I'll love it. If it is this joke segment in the back wasting our time with Brodie Lee, and next week he comes back and never does anything that resembles that, I'll be a little bit okay, you kind of fucked this up. But he's so good in the ring, and you're right, even with all the mistakes they made in WWE, he was such a good character, and similar to Moxley, things went well enough that fandom was there. People did love him. Luke Harper talked about it, in the Talk is Jericho podcast, where he'd go to these house shows and he'd get people to cheer him. He had that fan base. And so that's so much different than, say, signing a Sean Spears, you're getting somebody that showed themselves, but never got the opportunity to really get over. And that's even different than Moxley, who didn't get to do what he wanted to do, wanted that creative freedom, but he was WWE champion 2 years ago. He had a solid run at the top going against AJ Styles. Only thing that got in the way was James Ellsworth. There were some moments for Dean Ambrose that worked.
When you say it out loud, it almost sounds silly.
Luke Harper didn't get that. At most, he got to be part of something amazing that people remember him for in the Wyatt family. But in terms of his chance to turn that into something else, he never got that chance at all. And then got put on the shelf in a way. They tried to do everything with Dean Ambrose to keep him coming back. He was, they were talking about signing his contract up through the time he left and had him on TV and didn't actually pull the ripcord until they realized they were never going to get him to sign, at the very end. Luke Harper, they tried to trick him to keep it a contract so he couldn't go somewhere else and had him off TV 90% of that time. The only one who got him to come back is Daniel Bryan. So it's weird how their stories are pretty similar, but it is much different. And I think, Wade, you hit the nail on the head. I am super fucking excited for a Jon Moxley versus Brodie Lee match in whatever way you build that up. And that was kind of what I thought, when they started to come in, when I knew Luke Harper was out for a while, when I knew Dean Ambrose became John Moxley and he was going to AEW. Like, we had like fantasy booked the idea of Luke Harper going to AEW, and I was like, that would be a great match. That's before we saw Moxley do what he's done so far in AEW and keep building his stock up. That's before they decided to have this perfect way to introduce Brodie Lee to AEW. And the only thing that's going to stop this from working is the coronavirus.
How do you two feel about the new Sister Abigail setup to his clothesline?
I was not at the setup. I hope it was like a one-off, but it was. Yeah, I loved it. I love that he did it.
He's done it twice now, and I'm wondering if that's going to be ongoing.
Well, I guess I didn't watch the match. I only watched the promo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
done it twice.
It seems like they're going to give it a run.
I don't like that.
It's so bad.
It's a long way to go for a discus clothesline.
It was like when they did it for him and Hardy or him and Randy Orton's finisher. Like it's a bad. You can't just grab a guy, stand him up, and then now he's running this. Like it just
right.
I liked it doing the promo. I don't like the idea they're still doing it.
Yeah.
All right, so those are all like the really good things that are still happening somehow. We mentioned Roman Reigns not being on versus Goldberg. We have to talk about this because it seemed like the answer is right there. As our foremost WWE apologist, I can't defend the fact that Vince can't even see the easiest thing to put together. The moment that Roman Reigns decides not to go and Goldberg already has a feud built up, they have the video. And I didn't even know they had the video until a couple days ago. I only had the story from Matt Riddle. Then I see the video. How do you not make this match? It's money. It's money, Vince.
Bro.
Oh.
I'll let either one of you jump in and tell me what the hell is happening. How has this not already been booked?
Who's it going to be then?
I've heard rumors of Braun Strowman. Yeah. That or it'll be like somebody else who's like over 50. Fucking Shawn Michaels, Mr. WrestleMania comes back at not WrestleMania, but whatever you want to call it. Gronk, I don't know. Fucking James Ellsworth returns. Christ, I don't. It's probably going to be Braun.
Okay. I'm pretty sure they already.
So I don't know. Hopefully, him holding the Universal title means more than him holding the Intercontinental title. But
doesn't he still have the Intercontinental title?
No.
Oh,
Sami Zayn. Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck yeah, Sami Zayn has the Intercontinental title.
That was a good finish too. That was a great way to build up Braun while having them take him down. I thought that was a good match at Elimination Chamber. I think my brain is
honestly makes Sammy one of the best characters. Honestly, but
yeah, I think it's so weird how things
makes me care about the Intercontinental title again.
Things were going so well there towards the end. Like Wade, are you shaking your head at things going well, or at Sami Zayn making the Intercontinental title matter?
Making it matter.
Okay.
He'll make it matter. Just give him time. He made it matter during Elimination Chamber and hasn't really had a chance yet since the coronavirus issues, but I don't know. It's fucking piece of shit looking belt anyway. Fucking who cares anymore? Everything is pain. Nothing is good. Intercontinental title doesn't matter. Might as well fucking call it a day, boys. We got to leave this world behind.
All right.
I feel you.
So I don't know what else is supposed to be on the card that, there were things that I cared about. I thought pretty much all of what they've done with the women's division has lined up perfectly. And I it's really surprised by that. Shayna Baszler going up against Becky Lynch, I thought was perfect. Charlotte going up against Rhea Ripley, challenging for the NXT title, perfect. And then it was like, oh, what do you do with Bayley? There's nobody that's left that works. Make it a 6 person match, except now it's down to 5 because Dana Brooke has the coronavirus. I'm not sure how Dana Brooke hasn't interacted with anybody, how Rey Mysterio hasn't interacted with anybody to not make this where everybody's on quarantine and WrestleMania is called off. But I'm not a doctor. Apparently Vince is. Vince has this all figured out. So
they have their own doctors. They're fine.
So I think that's been amazing that they've had that set up. I was super excited. I just don't know how excited I can be for any of that without people there. I don't know if you've been paying attention to my wild, crazy tweets that I put out on our Twitter account, but I really thought this should have been a virtual audience. I thought there were ways that you bring people in as holograms. You could set up basically not 30,000, but like, I don't know, 10,000 like 360 cameras that everybody could, if they had VR equipment, they could tune in for, or you could pick from where in the arena you get to watch. You get to pretend you're front row, and I don't know, you charge a couple $100. All of a sudden, you've turned this into a money-making scheme, and you've revolutionized how we continue to watch sports during pandemics. I mean, it seemed genius. I don't know why Triple H didn't respond when I tagged him in it, but what do you guys think in terms of not having the audience or finding ways to make this work? Are there answers that haven't been explored, or is the answer always simple, which is just shut the thing down and we can figure this out once this all gets kind of worked out and we can actually go back outside again?
I do love your idea of a VR WrestleMania.
It's pretty good.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think postponing it probably would be the better option.
Wade, what do you got for me?
I kind of like what WWE is doing, and what they did. Like, remember that big snowstorm when they had to cancel Raw, and it was just like promos, and then they would just put in matches in between. Like, I could totally see that happening, just like people cutting promos or vignettes, and then in between that, them doing matches. Like, I'm fine with that. But when it comes to like debuting people like Brodie Lee and Matt Hardy, it almost it almost means nothing without an audience. Like that's the whole point of a shocking debut is an audience reaction. And also what I've noticed during this, and I tweeted this out, is apparently in the AEW, no audience means you don't have to sell anything either, because Jack Swagger is standing up from Moxley's finisher, just like he hits the DDT, and then he's just back up out of the ring talking shit. And then Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara don't have to sell chair shots to the back. They just get shot, rolled out of the ring. Now they're up on the ramp talking shit. Like,
they were supposed to edit it in
Cornette's
post.
head exploded.
I'll let you talk, Ethan. Yeah. I have no response to this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your crowd pops are kind of what you live for, and it crowd reactions is what you live for. Crowd reactions is what makes you react as a fan oftentimes too. So I get what you're saying. Attaboy. I mean, yeah, you do lose that reaction. Overall, in the long run, I don't think you're losing that much, and it's understood as to why you are losing it. I don't know, fucking is what it is. Stop being a piss baby, Wade.
So for our listeners who are still just listening to the podcast format, just audio, Wade just chugged a beer and then wiped up his spillage with an entire roll of toilet paper. So he's just saying F you to the little man right now. Cutting a heel promo without saying a word. It's pretty beautiful there, Wade. He's got the glasses on now, too.
Yeah, sunglasses on now for... Oh, God.
It's a complete heel turn.
He's just lighting rolls of toilet paper on fire now.
They're my Arn Anderson glasses.
You fucking one-trick pony.
So, I don't even know what's left to talk about from wrestling. We hit most of the high notes. Was there anything, I mean, you don't have to still want to see it, because I think we're all pretty much in that weird phase of outside of the promos giving us a little bit of joy. It's just, there's not much we're going to get out of any sort of show, whether it's WrestleMania, whether it's these weekly shows. The different matches just aren't going to hit the same way. You're not going to be able to pull something off that really works. But what was the WrestleMania match that you were most looking forward to?
Edge and Orton, easily. I think that had a really good build. Also, I'm a classic Edge head, and I think it was also some of Randy Orton's best work in recent years. and it had a lot building on it. It had a lot of history to it, and I was just excited to see Edge back at WrestleMania.
Fair enough. Wade, what's your answer?
I was actually looking forward to several. Drew McIntyre Brock is something I've been talking about for at least a year. Randy Orton Edge had such a cool story going on. Like, Edge comes back, Randy Orton doesn't give a shit. Concerto on everybody. Like, it's awesome. Goldberg Roman Reigns could give a shit less about. But Bray Wyatt's entrance, like, what was that going to be like? Like, The Undertaker's entrance, what's that going to be like? Now it's just like, who cares? You can't have any of that cool shit in an empty arena. Most of this stuff's been filmed already. And they're going to be a bunch of gimmick matches. And WWE, like, I have yet to see a good, like, WWE backstage, camera work, like when they try to do something good, try to do something weird, since Piper Goldust. Like, that might have been the most successful one. And the rest of them have been pretty shitty. So I'm not looking forward to anything now.
Fair enough. Similar situation for me with I thought Edge, Randy Orton, really exciting. Fuck Goldberg, Roman Reigns, but Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre was something, especially with the way it came out of Royal Rumble. It just got me excited. A little bit deflating as Brock Lesnar just randomly crushed Ricochet in a way that didn't help either one. I don't know. I guess Ricochet hit that same Luke Harper moment where Vince is just like, I don't get this guy. I don't know what the hell happened there, but there were matches, and like I said, all the women's matches, the fact that they had those lined up so well coming off it, if they would have had a letdown after how they built up Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte for the triple threat main event last year, I couldn't have really held it against them. And instead, that has still been one of the top things happening in WWE has been the various women's wrestling storylines. So I was excited for all those, and then going into a empty arena match, like if they could find a way, like even something as simple as I don't want them to pipe in fake noise, because then you got people complaining that they gave Roman cheers when that wouldn't happen and all this shit. But if you could find a way that people watching, it doesn't have to be as complicated as my 360 camera VR experience. But if you find a way that, like right now, we found a way to talk together on video with the audio in, and if they could pipe in the audio from 50,000 fans that want to get on. I mean, I know we destroy the bandwidth that kids are trying to use to do virtual school right now, and we'd be public enemy number one. But you pipe those guys in, you have this real...
Fuck it, it's on a Sunday.
Yeah, you have this real audience that is cheering, and it would be weird with like how good the audio is and how it works, how you make that actually sound like an audience. But it's already really weird, so why not? Like, you could have found a way to make this work better than it is. If you're going to go through with it, you need to make a step. And even AEW, that has done a better job of creating something that's entertaining or at least interesting without an audience, none of them are trying anything revolutionary. None of them are trying to find a way to make this work without the people there. And you have to imagine there's some way to have the ability, with everybody having a smartphone with a camera on it, to find a way to bring an audience in virtually and make something. And even if it was awkward, you at least tried, and you didn't say, we're going to keep doing this because we need the TV money, but also F you, we're going to put on not even promos in the back. They're playing old matches. They did a recap of Elimination Chamber for one of the Raws. Like, they didn't even try to give us a real show. Why would we turn it in each week? And why would you put various wrestlers in jeopardy, put their health on the line, so that fans can be like, I guess I don't have sports right now. I can put this on in the background and wonder what the fuck is going on, which is what I saw from a lot of people who haven't watched wrestling in 20 years actually turn on like nothing else on Friday night. Also, not watching SmackDown for more than 10 minutes because this is fucking awful.
What if they like live scored every single match? every match would have to be super coordinated. But if you had like a score set to it, or live music or something so basically shoot it like an action movie is kind of what I'm thinking, or I don't know, thinking of it like from like a silent film perspective where there's no audio to really accompany this match that matters. Like, could be an interesting format if you had like Macho Man level choreography in your match and have a score set up to it. I don't know. It's worth giving a shot.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple things they could have done. I was thinking of the fact that we're asking who's in the Goldberg match, and most likely it was already filmed, and the leaks out aren't just like recommendations. It's Braun already wrestled Goldberg, and they have that footage. It would have been great if they did some weird like tournament style thing where they record a bunch of wrestlers facing each other. So somebody has like 4 or 5 WrestleMania opponents. Once you get them all in the same building, you're putting them through the same level of health risk with the coronavirus anyways. Have them in there. Have them film 5 or 6 matches. And when those leaks come out, they're like, oh, did you know that Goldberg lost the belt? Oh, did you know Goldberg won the belt? A bunch of shit happens. Don't even have announcers calling the matches. Have them do it themselves, just those 2 people out there and whatever sort of film crew you need to record it. And then in post, have, I don't know, Corey Graves and not Michael Cole, somebody who could actually get me excited for this. Watch blind. Have no Vince in their ear. Just call a match the old-fashioned way. And when they watch something happen, they might actually be surprised and create some level of dramatic tension when they're calling the match. And it would just, it gives you the option, if that was a stinker, you don't have to run it. You can pick a different match. You can give multiple versions of a match. So, if you let Edge and Randy Orton face off 3 times, you have, one where they win one way, one where they win a different way. The third one, some sort of schmoz, because you got to have that ready, right? You got to have a schmoz at WrestleMania, right, Wade? Got to. He's shaking his head no.
No, you shouldn't do that at WrestleMania.
But you could have stuff like, Becky Lynch with, making people tap. You could have one version where it's a pinfall. You could have one where it's a submission. And have them wrestle, pick the best match or the match that, Vince decides that's where the storyline goes. And any sort of leaks have no idea what the hell is actually going to happen. And there's so many things they could have done other than, okay, we're doing it at the Performance Center by itself. Here's Michael Cole in the front row, making it more boring than it is. We can hear the monotone in his voice even more because he's sitting there with no crowd there to at least give us something to be excited about. Like, there are ways they could have done this, and it looks like they really are just like, all right, we got to run it through. We got to do it. I don't know what the contractual obligations are because you're not getting fans to come in. I get showing up for Raw each week. I don't understand what to do at WrestleMania that, like, how does it benefit them? What money? There's no money in it. There is nothing except taking a prestigious event and creating this lackluster show that's only going to hurt how we remember WrestleManias going forward.
It's going to be a weird one that stands out in the history of WrestleMania. Like, what was it, like WrestleMania? Was it WrestleMania 2 or 4? The one that they did at like 3 different locations and kept bouncing around. I think it's 2. And even that has like a weird feel. Like, I went back and watched WrestleMania 2 probably like last year. And even that's kind of strange, but it flows better because it's at least live audiences and you can sink back into it pretty easily. Whereas this is just going to be the weirdest WrestleMania ever.
Yeah, there's nothing good that can come out of this. So that's where it's hard to do these wrestling podcasts. We got so excited. We got video, and we found a way to make this work just to talk about how wrestling is dying.
How bummed out we are. It's a good update.
It's pretty solid. We did get to talk about some fun things at first. A couple big reveals on AEW. A couple fun things, and then the rest is kind of it's hard to make a podcast that's going to uplift our fans, all 12 of them, make them feel good when the world is in such a tough place right now. Like it's
I don't know who put us in charge of being uplifting. That's not what we're here for.
That was me. Sorry, I wrote it into the podcast description. I don't know why I did that. That was a mistake. I'll have to fix that. But I'm trying to even figure out what else there is to talk about. It's so weird because, like, I would have thought we could at least complain for an hour, but we ran out of complaints. We don't even have the energy for that. Like, it's crazy.
You guys watching Tiger King?
I started it today. Yeah.
Man,
everyone's guilty.
Are fucking crazy, man.
Fuck Oklahoma. Fuck Florida. Fuck Tiger people. Like, they're all guilty.
Coolest guy,
every single one of them.
Drug kingpin.
Yeah, he's the one I trust the most. The guy who is exactly Scarface, but with tigers. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, also, I mean, definitely got to mention while we're complaining, definitely the hit that indie wrestling's taking through this whole process as well. People not being able to perform, not being able to, earn their money, earn their livelihood. So, if you're able to, go buy your favorite indie wrestler's T-shirt or hat or merch or whatever. Try and help support them in this fuckery time.
And no Hall of Fame this year. Going to try to wait until SummerSlam for that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, kind of. Like, if you're going to have nothing, if you need to find programming, that's the type of thing you can conduct without putting people in harm's way. Like, you can make that work. You can give something that's uplifting. You know, obviously you'll always have that sort of, the same way WrestleMania is going to look weird. The Hall of Fame is going to look weird. And people are going to have interesting speeches when the world is, in the state that it's in. But if you're trying to find programming to fill time, that is the type of thing that works. It's like same thing with these weekly shows. Like we don't need matches right now, really. Like you want a couple, you want to make sure that it's actually wrestling, but you need to do the best you can to figure out how do you fill this with promo packages that are going to push characters forward, promos that people are cutting to help build their character. Find ways to do things outside of the ring so that what you do in the ring is a couple good matches that, isn't just 3 hours of silence, like something like the Hall of Fame can be WWE programming, can be wrestling programming that can be done in this environment. And instead they're like, we're going to spend 7 hours each week, empty arenas with everybody. Like, what is this? And that's the best way to go forward. That's where we're at right now. And so it seems weird. Like, I think normally the idea of pushing it to SummerSlam is like, yeah, if you can't have WrestleMania, push it to SummerSlam. You're having WrestleMania. I think WrestleMania should go before Hall of Fame goes. I think Hall of Fame is the thing that you can still put on the table. But, I'm a crazy person who actually reads reports about coronavirus and knows how to, try to protect myself and everybody around me. Not calling out Vince, but I am.
Ooh, smart guy.
Yeah, fucking Cody Rhodes over here. Look at you.
Reading.
You could read too, Wade, if you took off the sunglasses. You can't see the print. He's chugging another beer. That's the response to coronavirus. Shout outs, quarantine beer chugs.
Yeah, you live in the Midwest. It is your response to coronavirus.
Yeah. Coronavirus!
I think we're about to wrap up. I think the couple of things, if we're going to talk about things that are wrestling adjacent, in this time as sports got knocked out, ESPN had to figure out a way to fill programming, and the one who that old WrestleManias. It was interesting because before that happened, there were already conversations about ESPN trying to take some of the WWE content, and how is that going to work? Vince McMahon got really excited seeing the number that UFC got for their live programming, but that was live programming. Are you going to just sell off the pay-per-views to ESPN? Maybe, but then everybody's going to leave the network and just start paying for ESPN Plus. So it was interesting to see that kind of relationship start with ESPN, and that was probably the smartest way to do it. I think there are people that already pay for WWE Network that are just watching old stuff. They'll jump on, they'll watch WrestleMania. That will still be there. There are other people who don't necessarily watch enough wrestling to want to watch, just stuff that's on WWE Network, pay $10 a month for it. But maybe they're already paying for ESPN Plus. Right now, they don't have anything to watch. And they're like, oh, I remember watching WrestleMania 17 with Stone Cold. maybe let's throw that on, see what's up. It seems like that's a pretty good business decision for WWE to get old shows onto ESPN and open yourselves up to a wider audience than they're currently getting to. What do you guys think about that? And have you watched any of the old WrestleManias, either on the network or, that's just on ESPN2 right now?
I haven't watched, but I'm glad it's happening. I know a lot of people who aren't normal wrestling fans, who text me and ask if I'm watching WrestleMania 30 or whatever, is on ESPN, which, having the network, you can kind of watch whatever, whenever, but it's nice that it's out there at least. Might get your more casual fans excited.
I've had a bunch of friends text me or message me on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh, holy shit! They're showing the WrestleManias on ESPN on Sundays," and they're super casual fans, like people that I wasn't even aware watched wrestling, and they're like, "That's what I know what I'm doing on Sundays now." I've been spending most of my time on the network watching all of the new Ruthless Aggression documentary they had. It was awesome.
I need to check that out. You gotta love Ruthless Aggression era. You gotta enjoy the last, run of WWE having competent programming. It's a good time. So I think it's a great idea for ESPN, like that partnership. It works both ways. I think it's crazy how well WWE has navigated those different networks, those different relationships, but doesn't know how to navigate a good wrestling product. It's very strange, but at least when they're doing that, they're getting the chance to expand to a different audience and get to more than just the people that tune in each week like us and complain all the time and hate ourselves.
All right. Well, that was solid. Yeah.
It's a good silence. Yeah. I like this right now. We can just sit in it.
Yeah.
We don't get to do that.
Sad now. Just upset.
Well, I saw somebody say that, like, if WrestleMania got canceled, it might be like the biggest benefit to WWE because they could do like a hard reset. You just shut everything down. You kind of forced to all of a sudden. Once everything is cleared up and you can get back to business as usual, then you can just kind of start from scratch. You can even strip the belts of everybody, start all over again, and figure out, okay, we've never had that in, our lifetimes of wrestling. Having, I know back when they moved to Fox on SmackDown, they tried to say that was like, the opening of wrestling season or however they described it. And now we could actually have that. We could have some sort of off season for wrestling that allows us to start again and get excited again and anticipate what's going on. Have wrestlers cut promos on social media. Have rivalries like Goldberg and Matt Riddle build up, finding us where we are. And then later when we can actually have that match, have it show up on wrestling programming. There's a lot of cool stuff that you could do right now if your plan was to make the most of this situation and not just how do we keep bringing in the money even as the economy of the world is shut down. And, I guess Vince figured it out. I'm not sure how much money he's making off WrestleMania, but hopefully it's a lot because he decided he needed to keep going. And, I'm pretty sure my idea is the only one that could possibly make money in this scenario. So, call me, Vince. I'll apologize for all the mean shit I said.
I don't just call it a wash for now. Like,
it's just kind of the world in general. Over. Just call it a fucking wash.
Yeah, like it's a mulligan.
Well, I'm really glad that our first video podcast could be so negative. It captures the spirit of the brand, and we can use that to reel people in and let them know this is what they'll get in the future. There'll be more breakdowns of individual matches with us complaining about booking. So that's the only thing missing from this. Otherwise, this is exactly what we bring to the table. We will keep doing this, and we plan to be back if WrestleMania happens. We will have the recap show. I also, for my overarching podcast, the Tell Me More podcast, I do plan on starting to have a twice weekly show, which I might have to call your guys' services to help me out and be a host every now and again, so that we can start doing that. And from there, normally I'd talk about sports, but that's gone. So literally it's Netflix. So guys, get ready. I will start watching Tiger King as soon as we finish right now. And we will come back next week and talk 10 minutes of wrestling and Tiger King the whole rest of the time.
Sounds good.
It's a plan.
All right. That's all we have for this groundbreaking edition of the Make It a Mark Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast. Later, Marks.